Live from WOWT, First Alert 6 starts now.
All right, good Wednesday morning, everybody. It's good to have you with us as we start this streaming. I'm Erin Hartley.
I'm Cerise Cole, along with Senior Chief Meteorologist Rusty Lord, Meteorologist Jared Lansford. We're starting with traffic this morning because we're calling it the Hot Mess Express. It is tough going out there right now.
Yeah, and it's especially if you're trying to use I-80, 680, and it's kind of stems from a stalled semi that we had on the interstate. That has since been moved out of traffic, but the damage is kind of done already. So here's what we're looking at as far as the situation. You can see all the oranges and the reds in the lead up to where this stalled out, right near Q on westbound I-80, and you may have a light bulb going off right now about that location. That's the entrance to that construction zone. So this is why I think we're going to be dealing with these kind of delays here for quite some time, even though that semi is now on the shoulder. So there's where we're at. This is the breadth of the delays that we're looking at all the way onto I-80 westbound near 84th. We've got things slow. 680, you can see those delays that stretch back past Center and near Pacific even. We've had them at times. Appreciate Rusty's help here getting the camera working. Here's what it's looking like as you get into this area with that stalled vehicle. There's the semi moved out of the way. Vehicles have stalled through that stretch. Camera just went on us again. But it is quite slow is my point here. It's kind of like a parking lot as you get into that area. You can see some of the speeds through that stretch as you're in the lead up to where that construction zone is and where that semi had stalled. Look at the 680 interchange. You're trying to go westbound through that. You've got near zero speeds at times through that stretch. And the fact that these just continue to grow on westbound I-80 back to 84th and on 680, this is what I feared. So the problem is normally when we would talk about these kind of areas being backed up, we would point you toward 144th as your alternate route. But we've got delays on 144. This is an ongoing construction zone, and you can see how that's impacted. So there's just not really a great option to try to avoid that situation on I-80. So my best advice as far as that goes is to leave plenty of time as you're making your way out and about. Leave a little early. Maybe text or call the boss and let them know that you're going to be late. There may be a few people for sure that are late this morning as a result of this. Other delays that we have had, JFK does look better. We're seeing things improve there heading northbound. A little slow on 370 as you're heading eastbound around 180th or so. But kind of the star of the show here is this I-80, 680 situation with all those delays that are in place this morning. We're going to keep you posted on the latest. We did briefly have a crash in that area. That got cleared pretty quickly. But that's kind of a sign if you're driving through there too. Make sure you're paying attention. And it's some sudden changes in those speeds as you're getting into that zone.
Well, Jared, we know you have a lot to do. We'll be waiting for an update momentarily. We want to get to the weather now as you're heading out this morning. Maybe grab the umbrella just in case.
Suppose our boss would buy it if I call him and say I'm going home because of that crash?
No, that will not work.
That's not how that, okay.
No. Good try.
Especially since you just said it on our stream.
And she's here too.
She's literally right there.
She's literally right there.
Story of my life. Didn't think it through. All right, let's see what's going on out the door this morning. We're in the 50s as we get rolling out the door. We have quite a few clouds around 57 degrees, northeast wind about 3 miles per hour. Notice the dew point right around 50. It's pretty mild and pretty comfortable out there with a little sunlight sneaking through those clouds. Notice we're right on the edge of refreshing and pleasant, so we don't have to worry about another muggy day today, which is good news. A lot of 50s out there. You got the lone 40 in York down to 48. There were many, many more 40s on the map to start off the day yesterday. Not the case today. So we got thick clouds around. Starting to see a few breaks between this batch you see mostly in our area and then the showers down to the south. Now what I think is going to happen is notice how the moisture is just kind of streaming in with these clouds right in the middle of our area. Eventually these thicker clouds I do believe are going to try to fire up an isolated shower, and you can see there's that batch right there by about noon today. So the steadier rain down to the south, this is going to be really spotty stuff. Even though models don't really show anything happening, you can see within that I do think we could have 1 or 2 spotty showers, maybe a thunder shower into the afternoon, and maybe even early evening hours. So we're not going to see a ton out of it, but this model waited a little while to develop those. But again, I think anytime after about 2 o'clock could have 1 or 2 of those drifting through. Chances into the evening, chances into the overnight hours as well. And it looks like heading into the early morning hours of Thursday, maybe 1 or 2 left from the thicker clouds, but overall, probably most of us going to stay dry with this round. I mean, you can see after 2 o'clock, spotty shower, a few thunder showers. Those at least the chances last anyway into the overnight hours. Then 77 on Thursday, 79 degrees by Friday. A pretty good stretch of weather here to round out the week. So we're looking at some comfortable weather. Not going to get much out of the rain chances, but there's a little bit out there anyway trying to fall.
All right, for folks who need a good reminder, it's Mom's Day weekend this weekend if you're not ready yet. Hopefully, maybe a nice brunch could be on the table because...
the sound of that.
Yeah, right? And the weather should be holding up for the morning.
A little, brunch, some mimosas, Yeah, there you
Spoil
go.
Mom.
There we go. Weather's looking really good no matter what you have planned for Mom heading into the weekend. So the moisture... or the humidity in the air is going to be pretty low. Even takes a little bit of a dip here for Mother's Day, so that's good news. You look at the 10-day forecast and you head into that Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, it's trending warmer. Average highs low 70s this time of year. We'll be near 80 by Friday and then have quite a few 80s over the weekend. So all the garden areas, flower shops, anything you like to do with Mom over the weekend, it's going to be a pretty good weekend for it. Just a little warm by the afternoon. And then we'll trend even warmer yet heading into the middle of next week with a high near 90, possibly a little jump in the humidity there when that rolls in. And we'll keep an eye on these thunderstorm chances towards the end of next week, see if those can turn into anything more. But that may be the start of a little pattern flip by the end of next week. And I tell you what, by then we're probably going to want some rain. So we'll see. Nobody likes to run the sprinklers in May, which is typically our wettest month of the year around here, so we'll take what rain we can get.
All right, Rusty, thank you. All right, to the news now happening today. 3 suspects in a murder case are expected to make their first court appearance today. Sa 2, Yu 2, and Winnathine have all been booked into Douglas County Corrections. Now, authorities say Kawa Thu was shot last May near 45th and Charles. Thu eventually died at the hospital. According to court documents, investigators believe the suspects engaged in a murder plan for money. Also today, one of the 2 men facing charges after an investigation into a local dispensary is set to appear in court.
Ryan McCollum is facing drug charges. Ross Plum appeared in Potawatomi court yesterday. The case stems from a pair of drug-related disturbances across the metro. This led to authorities seizing mushroom products from Green Star Glass and Goodies.
And that product again tested positive for psilocin, the Schedule 1 narcotic, possession of which and distribution of which is a felony federally and in the state of Nebraska. They also tested positive for a multitude of other unknown compounds that are not illegal, but that are hallucinogenic.
McCollum's hearing is set for 9. Stay with First Alert 6 on air and online for updates.
All right, I'm here at the safety desk with Maria Cage. You're talking about something that I struggle with, which is lower back pain. A lot of people. It is the leading cause of disability in the U.S., and you have some tips on how we can prevent some of this pain and maybe get some relief too?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we could do every single day that can sort of help with this that we might not even think about, and you really want to pay attention when you have those persistent symptoms that they keep bothering you. You don't want to wait to get some help. If there is pain still after a couple days, you really want to go see a doctor, especially if this is a new pain that you've never experienced before. Doctors say it's really important to get checked out so that you know what's causing that pain, but you also want to be aware of how you're strengthening your back muscles.
When patients say, well, I walk every day, I do other activities, it's not enough. You have to focus on doing specific exercises that strengthen those core muscles in your back.
Again, you might not think about it. You think you're being active, but it might not be really impacting those back muscles. So sitting for a long period of time, it can really also cause a lot of problems. Maybe if you sit a really long time for work, consider getting up, stretching every once in a while, walking around, taking some breaks, and just moving yourself during the day.
It's why I added, one of the reasons why I add Pilates to my routine, that core, that back, all that. Okay, switching gears a little bit, we're talking about girls who get in their periods earlier in the past. You got some new information about why this is happening?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Researchers actually found a link between people eating foods that that are sort of inflammatory for parts of your body, and having those earlier menstrual cycles. And they looked at 7,500 girls from 1996 to 2008. They found that processed meats, refined grains, and sugary drinks all contributed to girls getting that period at a younger age. And this is pretty important because those earlier menstrual cycles are associated with a higher risk of breast cancer, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease later in life too, which I don't think I ever realized that either. But experts say it also takes longer for women to develop regular cycles when they start earlier. So the research shows that genetics, air pollution, and we hear this a lot too, chemicals and different personal care products, those can all be some more factors that lead to getting that period a little bit earlier.
And again, we're talking about processed food. We seem to be talking about that. You got to avoid that as much as you can.
Yes, and it has a big impact on your overall health.
For sure. All right, Maria, Cade, good information as always, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Jared is back to give us an update on the morning commute chaos that's happening right now on the interstate.
And it is all stemming from the construction zone and the unfortunate placement of where a semi stalled at the entrance to that construction zone on westbound I-80. So semi has been removed. It's been pushed to the shoulder. No problems there. But this gives you an idea of just how far back those delays stretch. This is as you're entering the 680-80 interchange on westbound I-80, and you can see how things are backed up. We're going to see a big domino effect of impacts as a result of this through the morning. Even though the semi is no longer in traffic, you can see how far those delays stretch. We zoom out, goes all the way to about 84th on westbound I-80, and then a little bit on 680. We've seen some improvement there. To give you an idea kind of how big this is our distance tracker. We don't use this very often, but you can see that's almost 2 miles worth of nearly parked traffic there on I-80 westbound from the 680 interchange to where that entrance to the construction zone is at Q. And then you've got about another 2 mile stretch of where things are slow on westbound I-80 as well. So you're looking at about 4 miles worth of going along at a very slow rate of speed. So be prepared for that. That's what you're going to have to contend with in this area. There's not a lot of great options to avoid this either with some of the construction surrounding areas. There's a look at those exact speeds that are showing up in the estimated speeds through this stretch at this time. So once you get past into that construction zone, it's kind of the normal way things have been moving over the last few weeks, but you've got some sizable delays before you get there that you haven't been dealing with. On 44th, very slow as you're heading southbound. Check in on a couple of these other areas where we're looking at some consistent delays over the last few weeks. Last couple of days on 370, we've been slow eastbound near 180th. That's showing up a little bit, not as bad as what it's been the last couple of mornings. And speaking of not as bad, look at 480. You're doing pretty well heading from Council Bluffs over to Omaha. I hope that sticks here as the commute picks up. But it's mainly that 80 and 680 interchange area where we have our biggest problems. I think we're probably going to hold serve pretty much here for the next half hour or so as we put more traffic on the roads. But we've seen that semi get moved, so it'll probably just kind of stay about where it's at as far as where the delays are. And hopefully we could start to see some of those improvements build here as we get over the next hour. So we'll keep you posted, though, with the latest.
All right, Jared, thanks so much for that. In the meantime, back here at the Weather Center, getting an update on what's supposed to be a pretty decent forecast. I have no complaints.
Yeah, it's looking great heading into the weekend. We're going to warm into the 80s. You don't have humidity. The wind doesn't even look like much of a factor this weekend. So Mother's Day weekend lining up to be ideal. We're going to be near 80 on Friday, 83 Saturday, 85 on Sunday. Just gradually warming up over the course of that upcoming weekend. We're going to watch later on today for the possibility of maybe a couple little showers or thunder showers developing maybe in between these two lines right here, wherever that cloud band starts to set up. There's a bigger batch down here starting to get a little clearing south of that line, and overall that's the area we'll be watching for any spotty thunder shower development later on today. Minimal, but again, I can't rule it out because after about 2 o'clock, I think we're going to have the heat we need to see a couple of those bubble up and actually move east to west. Sounds a little weird, but given the placement of the storm system and where we're at in relation to it, we're actually going to see storms move east to west today with 77 to 78 for the high into the afternoon. Wind gusts, not a huge factor, but by the end of the afternoon could gust to about 20 miles per hour. Normally not a big deal, but that's actually probably the strongest wind we're going to see for a little while and the strongest we've had for a little while. So finally a stretch here where the wind isn't all that bad. Muggy meter heading into the weekend shows that even all the way through Tuesday, not looking too bad. We're going to keep the dew points low, and that's why we've trended up with the temperatures. The drier air tends to warm up a little easier. 77 Thursday, 79 on Friday, and then we're into the 80s this upcoming weekend. So Mother's Day weekend right now looking pretty darn good. No excuses. Looks like everything will be going as planned, and you cannot procrastinate.
Don't want to do that.
Hear that, Tyler and Jordan? No excuses.
So a good weekend for moms, but later in the week, things get a little warm.
Yeah, we're going to make a run at 90 next week. Could be for a day, maybe two, but overall, a couple things to watch next week. First alert to a spike in the numbers middle of the week. And then you'll notice by the end of the week some rain chances there. And that's the sign, I think, of the pattern starting to change up a little bit. You can see the surge of warmth as we head into next week. There's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, these warmer colors getting into our area. But at least this model shows Thursday into Friday, that kind of coming to an end and this cooler air wrapping in. This is a pretty strong storm system, which for the time being, models by the end of next week are taking this up to the north through the Dakotas and Minnesota, trying to wrap in some moisture with this. So we'll be watching this because there's been a lot of bouncing around with this, but this is the next system that's going to move in and try to disrupt things a little bit. And it's likely towards the end of next week that would be passing through, try to cut into the heat a little bit and bring with it the chance for some rain and maybe some thunderstorms. And I think that might be our tipping point to see the pattern get a little busier, bring in some rain chances that will, well, by then we're probably going to have a pretty good rainfall deficit for May, and we're going to need a little bit to make that up because May is our wettest month around here.
Typically.
Yeah, typically.
Typically.
Not this time.
All right, okay. Russ, thank you. Well, happening today in the Metro, an installation mass is set for the next Archbishop of Omaha. The mass will begin at 2 o'clock this afternoon at St. Cecilia Cathedral. Pope Francis appointed Archbishop designate Michael McGovern in late March. He takes over for Archbishop George Lucas, who submitted his resignation last year as required by canon law once a bishop reaches 75 years old. Well, solving a major budget shortfall is a top priority for Nebraska lawmakers.
Senators have 4 weeks to balance out the budget. Late last night, they advanced a budget bill to the next round of debate, included recommendations for all state operations and aid programs. The legislature is back in session at 9. A cuddly toy with a Metro twist.
We'll show you what it is when First Alert streaming returns. What could it be?
I don't know. Welcome back, everybody. You can find them at almost all places you shop. It's everyone's favorite cuddly toy, apparently. We're talking about Squishmallows.
Yeah, but this plushie is inspired by a figure right here in Omaha. Can you tell? That's the Oracle himself, Warren Buffett. So over the weekend, is he squishy?
He is. He's really soft.
Over the weekend, shareholders got their hands on the Warren Buffett Squishmallows, just like that one.
Yeah, they also made Warren's late business partner, Charlie Munger, with Charlie in the red golf outfit, and Warren, of course, he's wearing this green golf outfit. The two of them, because we got Charlie too.
They must go around and do all this little check-in series logo on here, so these are kind of neat.
This is official.
Fun.
Well, they had another one too in the set. It was a dog. They called it Omaha, and I think maybe Omaha is for the kiddos.
Yeah, but this means even more now to people with the big announcement, right? Like this is a collectible.
Could be worth a pretty penny.
I just looked on eBay. There was a set of all of them selling or going for $600.
There we go.
There we go. Somebody would do it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep this guy safe.
We'll keep it in
I know.
Oh, okay. Well, Rusty's going to do our update with the Squishmallow. No. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to get ready for our update in the Today Show. Of course, you can watch it here at streaming or over the air.
Have a good start to your Wednesday.
Live from WOWT, First Alert 6 starts now.
Good Wednesday morning to you. It is 7:26. I'm Cerise Cole.
I'm Aaron Hartley. Jared this morning has an update on what's been a lot of chaos on 80 so far.
It all stemmed from a semi that stalled in traffic at the entry to that construction zone on westbound I-80 right around Q. There's the semi. It's been moved to the shoulder now, but look at all these backups as you're in the lead up to that. And it's not just in the immediate vicinity of that situation. It's as you zoom out, I-80 being affected all the way to about 84th heading westbound, 680 with some delays as you're getting just a little bit north of Center heading southbound. So this is going to be a morning where you're going to need plenty of time to get where you need to go. Leave plenty early, and be aware there's going to be some quick changes in your speeds as you're going through that area as well. Rusty.
Oh, thanks, Jarrett. And temperatures this morning pretty mild. We're in the 50s. You'll notice quite a few clouds around the area today. That's going to be the story as rain down to the south is going to be steadier there. We have rain chances after about 2 o'clock into the afternoon and then evening and overnight too. But again, very spotty showers, maybe a thunder shower in the mix. I don't expect anything widespread. You'll notice the muggy meter today stays in the pleasant or refreshing range. As we go through the course of the day and the rest of the week for that matter, I don't expect any big spikes in the humidity. So with that, we're going to watch after about 2 o'clock today. A couple spotty showers or thunder showers possible wherever this thicker line of clouds sets up. Could be near I-80 or just to the north, and then some showers Kansas border on south. We'll see what can get going here, but we should be able to warm to 78 degrees while that all happens. Aaron?
3 suspects accused of murder will make their first appearances in court. You can see the suspects there on your screen. Authorities say Ka Ya Thu was shot last May near 45th and Charles Street. He later died at the hospital.
Well, it is 7:28. We are back with another update for you in about 25 minutes. We'll see you then.